Hi, I'm Rebecca Lieb.
And I'm Jason Horton.
And we're the hosts of Ghost Town, a comedy podcast about all places abandoned, tragic, mysterious, haunted, and true crimey.
That's not a word. We cover all kinds of locations like
the Los Feliz Murder House,
an LA murder frozen in time, Action Park,
the world's most dangerous amusement park, JonBenet Ramsey's house, Woodstock 99, the Cecil Hotel, and the Black House.
Ooh, Satan. So pause the podcast you're currently listening to immediately and go subscribe to Ghost Town.
You can find us at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for letting us in.
I was burying bodies out in the desert.
Neighbors claimed they practice witchcraft.
Quiet. Everything will be fine.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Haunted Heart Podcast. We're just going to jump right the fuck on in it today.
Jumping in it.
Jump right up on in it for you today.
Oh, never mind.
You're what?
Go back.
What?
I was going to introduce myself. You know
Well, I
how
don't
some
think you
podcasts
need an
introduce
introduction.
themselves? Yeah, no, but some podcasts introduce themselves, so it's not like if you're listening for the first time, it's not like, oh, who are these people?
Oh, who are you? What are you doing in my room?
Yeah, what are you doing in my ear holes? This is invasive.
All right, well then introduce yourself.
Well,
You have all the time in the world. No, you don't. You have an hour and 13 minutes. Get to it.
We don't actually time our episodes to be an hour and 13 minutes on average. They just kind of are, and I kind of like it. 13 is a good number for me. I carry it around from time to time.
Yeah, it's a lucky number.
It's good. Anyway, I'm Katie,
Yeah, you are.
and this fucker over here.
Hi, I'm Kenny. And we're your hosts for this evening. And every other evening that you're listening to us.
That you're listening to the Haunted Heart
beside that
podcast.
one time that we weren't, and our mods were the hosts.
Oh, it's true. That was good. And speaking of our mods being the hosts, they actually, from their experience on doing our podcast for a week, which was super fun. Go back through the feed and listen to their episode. They are launching their own podcast called Snacks with Steen. So that will be hosted by
I believe it's
Stein.
Snacks with Stein.
God damn it.
What the fuck?
I haven't had food in 48 hours. Please don't judge me.
Snacks with Steen?
I'm just trying
Who
my
is
goddamn
Steen?
best. No, I have this friend whose name is Christina, and I always, her nickname is Steen. I call her Steen. And so every time I see it, I just can't.
Well,
I just can't.
It's Snacks with
Well,
Stein.
it's Stein, R.L. Stein, the guy who wrote fucking Goosebumps.
Yeah, and
that
Fear Street.
motherfucker.
I'm really
And
excited
Fear
for
Street.
it. I'm so happy for them. I'm glad that they got to, getting to work
Snacks with
together on this.
Steen.
So great. Yeah.
God damn it, I whiffed it.
The Steen, what is it? Snacks with Steen didn't kill himself.
No. Yeah, so check out their podcast. It's launching December 5th, and we're really excited for it. We're going to listen to it. You should listen to it too. It's really cool. It's from what I know, it's they're reviewing Fear Street, their favorite Fear Street
And Goosebumps.
and Goosebumps stories, and I guess they're snacking too, which
Yeah.
is always good, unless you're on a hunger strike for climate change for 7 days, in which case, no snacks for you.
No snacks,
But you
just
still get the
water.
podcast.
Just water and ice.
Yeah.
But I believe we need to get into an invocation.
We do. We just have all kinds of business today.
All kinds of house cleaning.
It's going well.
Cleaning.
Snacks with
House-
Steen. Snacks with Steen while we're house cleaning.
And while we're house cleaning, yes.
We do. We have a new member joining our Patreon.
Yes, we are so excited. We cannot thank you guys
Why did that
enough.
sound fucking sarcastic? We are so excited. Why did that sound so salty?
Because it's one more
Like you're
goddamn
fucking
thing we
mad.
have to do on here. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's good.
It's
I
great.
love it.
It's absolutely beautiful. We love getting that little notification where it's like, bam, so-and-so just became a patron. Even when sometimes it's like, so-and-so deleted their page. It's still exciting.
That's a sad
either way.
time. Mass delete. All the patrons are like, here you go. You asked for it.
No, but we love that you guys love us and want to support the show and help us continue this bullshit. So anytime we see that notification, it just makes our hearts flutter.
Fuck yeah. Every time we see that, it's like we just got a new business partner. It's cool.
Fuck yeah. Oh, that's a good way to think
it's like
of
a
it.
co-op. Yeah.
Business partner.
Yeah, it's good. I always think of Patreon that way because it's like, oh, these are people who like care enough to like actually put money into the show, which is really cool. And if you can't afford to put money into the show, like I'm not shitting on you. I'm not Mike Boudet. Come on. Sword and scale. I just like anybody who listens, like it's awesome. So if you are able to give financially, that's cool. We all go through different seasons in life financially. Consider it, if you will. It's patreon.com/thehauntedheart. But if you aren't in a place where you can give financially, we still love you too. It's fine.
Yeah. All right. So
With that said, let's induct a new member. I realize it's been a while since we explained the invocations, and we did like 4 on the last episode.
we did.
Yeah. So what this is, whenever we have a new member join Patreon, no matter what level, no matter what contribution, we like to do a little invocation of the new member on the show.
Yes, we do.
And Brittany R. joined us on Patreon a while ago, I think. And we, like, somehow she didn't make it into the last episode, but we're going to do you now, girl. Better late than never. And we're going to send some extra good vibes to you because I know you've been waiting a while on your invocation.
Well, Gmail
Boo-boo.
fucked us up on that. 'Cause
Yeah,
we didn't get the
Gmail
notification.
fucked
It
us.
somehow like ended up in some like Gmail inbox that we don't know what the fuck happened. So our apologies. but
Probably with all our other emails. Fuck.
really important emails.
Yes. Yes. Really important emails from really important
Netflix
people.
interested in partnership. Delete.
Fuck. Netflix cease and desist.
Delete.
Definitely delete. All right, so miss me with them Gmail bad vibes. Hit me with that good shit. Brittany R., we are sending you all of the good vibes, health, wealth, happiness, whatever it is you need to get through the rest of this fucking Mercury in retrograde season, babe.
Season.
It's fine. Brittany will be joining our Haunted Heart harem, by the way. And we glad to have you, boo.
Yes, we are.
Looking fine.
That light didn't want to go out on that match.
Her match burned bright.
Yes, it did.
All right, my love, your candle is lit and it will sit beside our mic stand, burning into the night, at least through the end of the episode, but forever and always in our dark, dark hearts.
Yes, we love that. All right. So, I believe with that, it's time to get into our shit today.
We have an agenda today. Look, listen, we have all of the information up top. Snacks with Stein, snacks with Steen, however you want to take it. Got our Patreon shout out, and now we're getting into the business.
Yes, this is true. Okay. So, I guess I should tell them what we're talking about today.
You should. I'm actually really wildly excited for this episode.
The shit.
This shit. No, this topic.
Mainly because she didn't have to do anything.
Well, no, I'm super fucking bummed that I didn't get to do anything. Like, I really, when I put this on the topic ideas list, I wanted to research it. I was going to make a Katie episode. And then, like, you took the lead, and I had a crazy week, and you ended up doing most of the research. So I'm kind of bummed about it, but at the same time, I'm now really excited because I want to hear all of the things.
Right. Well, listen up, folks. Strap in. Get your strap-ons, whatever you need, because we're talking about the Lost Colony.
Fuck yeah, Croatoan.
All right. So we need to get in our Haunted Heart time machines. You know the drill when we do this.
Oh, the time machine episode. Got it.
Yep. Haunted Heart time machines. We're getting in there. We're putting all of our shit in there, grabbing all of our people. You know, Christy, our mods, Emily, everyone that, you know, all of us. We're going. Even you. So, let's start in 1578. you've got Queen Elizabeth I. By the way, did you know her nickname was Good Queen Bess?
Yes, I did know that, actually.
Really?
I did. I have a history degree. They taught me that.
Well, and I'm the one doing this episode. It just sort of reminded me of like a cow.
Yes. Bess and or Bessie are very good cow names.
Right. She was a good queen, that cow. That's just all I could think of, really. And that's the end of the episode.
Oh my God. You could always be like, I think it was George II who was crazy.
Yeah.
And he was crazy, and he was taking this medicine that was like making him piss turquoise. Either that or he had a disease that made him piss turquoise. I feel like I've mentioned this before on the show, weirdly. But he made his horse like a general in his fucking army. Like the general of his army. It was his fucking horse. Who he also like had dinner with, like at his table and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, a cow being queen, we're not far from that.
That's true.
Potentially.
I mean, yeah.
Everybody loves cows.
We do.
They're good.
Yeah. Very nice. Great color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
So, Miss Bess, she grants a charter to these two guys, Sir Humphrey Gilbert and his half-brother, Adrian Gilbert. But then Adrian died.
Full fuck.
He did.
Wait, were we checking on Humphrey during that time? What happened?
Oh, he was fine.
Could he have been murdered?
No, he was fine.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
We'll
Possibly.
put a pin in it. We'll look into it later.
We'll do that. So, Adrian died, and the charter passed to his half-brother, Sir Walter Raleigh.
Oh, I know that motherfucker.
Yeah, you do.
He's doing well.
I don't think so.
Hang on for a second, because I'm making big noise. Sorry, I dumped this entire thing of matches in my fucking lap.
Are you trying to set yourself on fire here?
I mean, when there's nothing left to burn. It was my favorite quote from high school.
All right.
When there's nothing left to burn, you have to set yourself on fire. I thought I was so fucking cool, man.
I know you did.
It was tough. Sir Walter Raleigh.
Yes, Sir Walter Raleigh.
What's going on with him? Tell me more.
So, the terms of the charter essentially stated that they were to explore and colonize territories unclaimed by Christian kingdoms. And essentially, it divided the territories up so that Gilbert would be able to claim anything north of, please tell me I'm going to say this wrong, Newfoundland?
Yeah,
that
no,
right?
that's good. Newfoundland. Yep, that's the one.
And Raleigh, anything south of that.
Got it.
All right. So, this charter had some fine print in it. And first of all, before we get into the actual story, this is like a 3-part story.
Got
honestly.
it. It's
so
the
there's like
triptych.
3 major parts to this story, and I literally did no work and spent all of my time. Like, my manager came up to me and she was like, hey, do you have the capacity to help me with this? And then there's me looking up like the mysteries of Croatoan right on my laptop, and I'm like, yeah.
Nope.
No, I'm at capacity.
I don't have the
right
capacity. I have a podcast.
now. Right.
Okay.
So again, this charter had some fine print. He needed to have established a colony by 1951, or else he would lose his right to colonization. So the charter essentially stated that he was to, quote, discover, search, find out, and view such remote heathen and barbarous lands, countries, and territories, to have, hold, occupy, and enjoy.
I mean, it sounds kind of like nasty.
Yeah.
I mean,
And enjoy.
and enjoy heathen and barbarous territories. I have a few of those.
Yeah. I know you do. So now a huge factor in this colonization, besides the obvious, was also so that they could establish a home base from which they could raid Spain's shit. And he was to do all of this, but was forbidden to leave the Queen's side.
Got it.
She homegirl had trust issues.
Yeah.
She
Well, I
was-
think there was a rumor that they were fucking.
Probably.
There
feel
was
like
definitely a rumor that they were fucking. And Elizabeth was fucking most people in her fucking castle. Like, she was fucking a lot.
Well, she wouldn't let him leave. She was like, no, you need to do all of this, but you're not going any fucking where,
Got
actually.
it. You know, I relate. Do all these things for me, but also be right here
Be right here.
at my beck and call.
Right.
What's wrong with
Just like the
that?
queen you are.
100%. And there we are.
So he ended up delegating a lot of his missions to other people, and mostly just worked from London, which is like the ultimate work from home gig, really. So April 27th hits. Raleigh's got his shit together. He has 2 ships set sail beginning in the south so they can catch those good winds to carry them into the West Indies before sailing north on July 4th, where they first caught sight of land.
Got it.
This land today is known as Cape Fear, which, if you're from the area, is a bit of headland that juts into the ocean from Bald Head Island on the coast of North Carolina.
Got it.
So they make landfall on July 13th. There they meet the Sakotan, who had probably already established connections with, or at the very least had witnessed previous explorers. So they were essentially like, oh, look, more white people.
Look at these helpless white people who are about to fucking get off this boat
God.
and die hard.
Someone was like, God damn it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's fucking tough. But here's the thing, like, it's totally, like, the climate of North Carolina, totally different from, I mean, not totally, but very different from what they would have been used to back home.
Right.
You know, because they were, I mean, I don't know the exact latitude and longitude, but it seems like they're at a higher latitude than North Carolina would be. So maybe, like, the crop, like, I know it gets hotter down there than they're used to. You know, British people, they get fucking, they're, like, dying. If it's like over 70, they're like, oh my God.
I'm not sure. I'm not a climatologist. Is that a thing?
I don't think
Sounds
so.
like it. Sounds like it could be. But anyway.
I'm not sure.
So things were friendly at first, and when the ships returned back to England in the fall, they spoke highly of the tribe's hospitality, as well as the strategic location of this island, Roanoke, essentially.
I don't think there's anything strategic about getting out of a boat, having no basic life skills to care for yourself, being completely unaware with the like environment around you, not knowing how to like grow crops and feed yourself, not having any of the materials required to do so, and relying entirely on like the people who are already there, the natives, to like take care of you and show you how to eat.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
nothing
I think they were
strategic
thinking
there.
about location-wise of the land, because
Sure.
if you at the time, Spain ruled a lot of what was in the south and all of that, so that's essentially what they were trying to like fucking have it for. I'll get to that anyway.
Got it.
So they also brought back 2 people. And I really hope I couldn't find a way to Wanchese, a Sakotan, and Manteo, a Croatoan, whose mother was the chieftain of Croatoan Island. So pretty cool. Now, these 2 had very different vibes going on with them. Wanchese was very suspicious of English motives. He didn't really care to learn English, and when he returned to Roanoke in 1586, he literally just straight dipped. He was like, I'm done with these white people.
You know what? Honestly, it's probably better for him.
Yes. So this was in contrast to Manteo, who helped the colonists through the harsh winter, helped them bridge language gaps, and was actually one of the first indigenous people to be baptized into the Church of England. So 2 very different, sort of frames of thought going on.
Yeah.
So we've got this land, and it's being hyped up to be this vast, like, Garden of Eden, so to speak. So Raleigh plans his first colony, which was essentially a military operation that sought to evaluate the land and its natural resources. Again, they wanted to see if this would be a suitable place to essentially establish a military base. So 600 men went on the voyage, and this guy, Ralph Lane, was appointed the governor of this colony. So they sent all these people and an artist.
Love it.
A watercolorist, if you will, by the
Amazing.
name of John White.
Ironic. Ironic that his last name is a color and he's a watercolorist. Ironic.
John White, yes. The
John White.
watercolorist.
That's amazing. I hope that was. You think that was a stage name? Do you think he was born with the name White, and maybe that's
Probably.
why he became a watercolorist?
Probably.
You know, like kind of like how people who are like dentists or like
I just
doctor
feel like there were a lot of whites back then.
True. That's true.
So 600 men and this watercolorist.
God damn it. You know, honey, he had his padfolio. He had his easel.
His paintbrush
honey,
set.
he had his full 52
He-
color set.
He thought he was the shit.
He had those white trays that we had back in the fucking day in the 90s where you had with them dry ass watercolor paints that you had to dip your brush in
fucking-
water and then fucking like stab it into the color palette to get any color.
He had a fucking smock. I just imagine you have all these like, British like military men or whatever, and then there's this guy.
And then
with
there's like
a
rail thin John White who's like,
Oh, he's painting the water. Is there
a
like
beautiful dandy. What a guy.
So they all
And there's
set
me watching from the reeds, and that's the one that I like set my fucking sights on.
right,
So that we can starve to death through the winter because he can't provide for the family.
but he's an artist.
Ooh.
He knows his way around some watercolor.
God damn it. I got so mad with those watercolors too
Well,
because you had
actually-
to stab the paint so bad that your brush got all fucking frayed and then you couldn't paint shit with your brush.
So he was actually kind of a pioneer. This is kind of a sidestep, but I told you I did a lot of research. So he was actually kind of a pioneer in the art realm with watercolors because a lot of people at the time were using oil paints. And he was like heavy into watercolor. And that's really why they sent him on this mission, was to record and paint like the trees, the floor, the flora, fauna, and the people, whatever, so that they could get a record of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of his works during this time are actually one of like our only resources as to what things looked like back then.
Wow.
And again, he really spearheaded like the use of watercolors, and then later on, like everyone else sort of like followed suit, and it became a big thing.
Got
so
it. That's cool. So watercolors had been around prior to that point. They just weren't like in vogue.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
'Cause it
Yeah,
was
I mean,
very
I could
oil-
see
yeah.
that because you couldn't carry a shitload of oil paint around with you as you're like exploring these
Right.
places. I guess the
But you're
watercolors
at
maybe were more
sea.
convenient.
You got a lot of water.
You got you plenty of water.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So-
That was an interesting tangent. Thank you
Yeah.
for enriching my life with that.
You're welcome. You are very welcome. There might be a few more coming, so just you wait.
Got it.
So they all set sail on 7 ships and departed on April 9th, 1585. Now, this voyage was a little tumultuous. There's a whole series of events that occurred that I won't get into, but let's just say they experienced Haunted Heart October 2019.
Oh, girl. Bless them.
So some shit goes down at sea, and they lose a lot of provisions that they had carried, and now didn't have enough to support a settlement as large as they had originally planned.
Well,
Well,
that's bad news.
that is bad.
Never good news when the captain like gives you that like information, calls you all, and is like, "Well, now we don't have enough food to support everybody that we had hoped to support." And you're just looking around like, "Fucking, I'm not trying to get eaten first." Like you're sizing people up, like, well, we could eat on him for about 30 days.
True. And more on that to come, actually.
Good time for a water fast. That
Yeah.
you know.
Just
It's okay. I can hang around. I don't need food actually. It's
good.
fine. I'll
I'm
just
not
be
gonna
over
waste
here.
resources.
It's okay. You don't have to get rid of me.
Me
please.
just over there like eating random bark that's like, it's great.
It's fine.
I don't
It's
need food.
Fine. It's totally fine. I think that's when I would definitely be playing up the fact that I am like an eligible woman of childbearing age. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they would have noticed.
I'd be
that.
like, look here, I got this womb. You don't want to eat this womb.
I mean,
There's one guy in the back who's like, I would love to eat your womb. I want to know what it tastes like. I don't know if it's chewy.
fucking serial killer of the time.
I'm like, look, we have to grow this colony. I know
Right.
you want children. Over here, I'm your ticket.
Uh,
And then we make land, and I like run off with
fucking dart.
I run off with a fucking capable ass first American man
Exactly.
who will fucking have me
Fuck
if I
yeah.
beg.
Yeah, you damn right. So on top of all of that, they didn't have enough provisions. The Outer Bank inlets aren't deep for shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So plans for this place to be a base for large military ships, it just wasn't happening.
Right, because you have the sound there where it's only like 4 feet deep. So you
Right.
can't be fucking driving boats into that because you're going to tear the bottom out.
Exactly.
Got it.
Great information to have before we send a whole fucking fleet of people.
Oh, I
over there.
see. Oh, it didn't work out then. is what we're getting to.
Right.
Oh, I love
Right.
that sound. I shaved my legs in that sound once.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, girl. I was taking a beach vacation and my life being what it is, I was too busy. So I just threw my razor in the car and then I got there and I just went out into nature and shaved my fucking legs. Hair didn't grow back for like 3 months.
Oh shit.
It's
All right.
crazy as hell.
Well,
Anyway, I love the sound. It's a
The
great
sound is
place.
good.
Unless you're trying to like ram your fucking boat into it, in
no.
which case.
It's not a great place for these big ass ships. So the captains decide that only about 100 people could stay with Governor Lane, and that would be good enough essentially to support their objectives of like research and all of this until a planned second wave of colonists and supplies could arrive. Now, because they had sent this wave and then they were going to send another wave of supplies later. So that was already planned. So they were like, 100 people, y'all stay here. It'll be fine. There's going to be another
wave of supplies.
support that's going to come.
You're going to be okay.
But swerve on that ass. This planned second wave was actually redirected elsewhere due to some Spanish drama going on.
And they didn't know.
And they didn't know.
Oh,
the captain
fuck.
had no idea. Like, he had no way of knowing
Oh,
that
shit.
this had been redirected elsewhere.
So he was like, okay, you 100 people
Uh-huh.
can just fucking, you guys stay here. It's going to be totally fine. And then you're going to get food soon.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Spain was like, nah.
Nah. Well,
Damn.
yes. So essentially,
Well, probably because they thought that they had all the food from the first tranche over, right? So they probably made some miscalculations for how long
right,
they would
so
be
they
okay.
didn't,
Because they were like, well, they have food. We sent them with the
right,
food.
we send them with enough. It's fine.
Right. Kind of like when
Whatever.
your mom packs your lunch like in the morning and then you eat it all on the bus to school. And she thinks that you have lunch, but what you've done is just eat it all in advance.
Yeah.
So then you have no lunch.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I wouldn't know from personal experience, but
Well, and then so the captain of that ship decides, he's like, all right, peace out. He's like, we're going to take these other people. We're going back to England. Y'all stay here.
whoa. So the
be
captain
fine.
didn't even stay? The
Well,
Lane
so there
guy
were like
did.
7 Remember, there were like
Oh,
7
there were a
ships. So
bunch.
there were like
Got
multiple captains. So the captain.
The big captain.
And they had names, but I just chose not
Who cares?
because it's the captain, whatever.
Sure.
Anyway.
Captain Crunch. There you go.
Anyway, he leaves, and I think it was at this point that because I think there was probably some time where they stayed before they like left, because it was really hard to find a time when our artist, our watercolorist here,
Mr. White.
Mr. White, left. Some speculate that he left during this time, went back to England.
Right.
Some say he stayed through the winter, but they question that because had he stayed through the winter, he probably wouldn't have come back later for the third round. So they think that he did his research, left with this boat, and
He was like, I'm
come
getting the
back
fuck
later.
out of here.
Pretty much.
I'm an artist. Do I look like I can fucking survive a winter on this fucking place?
No. So this meant that Lane's colony would have to rely on the generosity of the natives that inhabited the area. So what do? The colonists decide to burn down their villages. It's fucking awful.
Wait.
Well, so listen. So
Wait. No.
Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what went down.
Okay. Because I'm confused.
Uh-huh.
If you're going to rely on somebody's generosity, generally the first rule is not to burn their fucking house down.
Yeah, or their crops. Right.
Oh, crops too.
Pretty much.
Oh, okay. That's good. Well, that was the food though.
Right.
Why are you going to burn the food?
Not smart, these people.
You need the food.
So what went down was the colonists during one of their explorations, noticed that a silver cup was reported missing. So one of the captains went back to the village to demand its return. When the natives were like, dude, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, they burned their villages and their crops.
Oh my fucking
so
God.
that they don't appear weak.
You ought not be worried about the cup, baby. You need to be worried about what the fuck you gonna put in the cup.
Put in the fucking
You ain't got no
cup.
food.
Worry about those.
Who gives a shit about your silver
fucking
cup?
silver cup?
You ain't got nothing to put in
He
it.
said,
You're gonna
we're
fucking
going to burn
starve
down this
with it.
village and the crops so
Oh
that we
my
don't appear weak. All right, you're going to be fucking weak
You know what this
when they don't
is?
fucking share any crops with you to fucking eat because you burnt their shit down.
This is men being in charge.
Honestly,
is what this fucking
this
is.
whole fucking story is literally just a series of like dumb fuckery.
This is somebody with a fucking masculinity complex. Is
It
what
really
this is.
So, with limited supplies and no PR agent to help them really to like smooth things out, other than Manteo, they had him
And a crippling inferiority complex.
right. So remember, you still had Manteo who went back with them on the first trip, and came back with them with the 600 men. So he was essentially their strongest ally.
Yeah.
Right? So he's kind of following the English where they go. So he was there first, went back with that first small wave of people, came back with them, and then now he's kind of like dealing with all of this.
He's trying to keep these people alive.
Yes.
Got it.
So the colonists really struggled. Obviously, there was no gold, no Garden of Eden, just Eden, North Carolina, girl.
Girl. And I tell you what, depending on what you're looking for, depending on your perspective, baby, maybe that is the
bitch,
Garden of Eden for you.
They might have found a liquor store and a coin laundromat, but it won't no Garden of Eden.
I know they used to have a Popeyes in Eden, and they recently, just this past month, removed it. And I'm upset about that. But they still got the cookout.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
meanwhile, while all this is going on, the captain who left with the other like 500 people who had set sail for England before all of this captured a Spanish merchant ship and got like a shit ton of gold and treasure, which made the whole expedition profitable.
Okay.
Like, regardless of everything going on back then, this one guy who like dipped out just happened upon a merchant ship, captured it, and then just like hit the fucking jackpot essentially. Made the whole expedition worth it.
That's cool.
But, we're just going to ignore, all of the starving and depressed people.
It's fine.
that they left
just don't look at them.
It's
Look,
fine.
we have all this gold. Just don't look at the hungry people.
That was essentially the thought process.
Yeah, governments still work that way now, though,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So on top of, like, starving, they're also sick. So while the colonists were going from village to village doing their exploring and all of that, they were bringing gifts of influenza and smallpox, which meant that now the natives were suffering with limited food supplies because they were getting sick and unable to, do things to help keep their fucking selves alive.
Yeah. Also, we burned all those fucking crops
And burning the crops.
earlier, so the food supply somewhat cut down by that as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, totally. Well, it was one of them because there were multiple like villages and tribes in the area, so that was like one
Yeah,
of them.
right. That was one. Yeah.
So that was one of them, but still,
I mean,
one is too much
one is too many.
for real. So by the spring, it was awkward as fuck between the colonists and the natives.
Can you fucking imagine? No, we're native Southern Virginians. We're very close to North Carolina. Both of us have spent time in North Carolina. You have lived there for several years. Can you imagine if you were like a first American and you saw these people coming and they just had no fucking skills? And they're worried about shit that doesn't matter at fucking all, like a silver cup.
Yeah.
And they burned one village down, and you were still kind of like, well, I can't just let them starve to death, so I guess we'll just fucking help them a little bit. And then they just, like, the ineptitude that they must have, because it's a totally different climate.
Right.
And I just don't think these people were very prepared. And so I can't help but imagine that, like, as a native looking at that, you were like, where did these people fucking come from? Who are these,
Essentially.
like, overgrown babies? Like,
I mean, honestly.
what the fuck?
Honestly, yeah.
Like, they can't even keep themselves alive. They can't even keep their fucking water clean. What the hell? Mm-hmm. Like, all these things that come second nature because, you know, I mean, to some degree, yes, people who are coming from a sort of civilization sort of mindset where they live in cities and have, like, all of those sorts of things too, you know, North Carolina at the time, which was very much a frontier, basically. Not to say that there weren't villages and, like, I guess, organizational schemas in place, but it was just radically different from that you would have found in, like, Europe.
Right. Well, there were different. They just had different priorities.
Like fucking staying alive.
Like staying alive, essentially.
Yeah, but I mean,
and
I always think about whenever I, like, read anything that happened in this time period, like, I always think about how fucking stupid the settlers, if you want to call them that, must have looked to the natives who were there.
Truly.
Like, I mean, thank God they didn't just let them all fucking die. Like, I mean, to be honest, that was probably the best choice. Like, you probably should have.
Well, yeah.
We say that as two cripplingly Caucasian people, but, like, I mean, thanks. But also, probably should just let them die.
I mean, honestly.
They were dicks. They were burning shit down.
I mean, yeah. So there's lots of drama going on here. Very telenovela vibes between the two people. Suffice it to say that at the end, the chief of the Secotans pulled some shady shit, evacuated his people from Roanoke, destroyed the English fishing supplies, and ordered them to not sell food to the English. So this left Lane and his men to essentially beg and forage for food in the Outer Banks. And so the chief got the idea to plan an attack on the English. So he gathers a bunch of allies together, but unbeknownst to him, Lane had gotten word of this little, like, you know, military, like, come together, so to speak. So Lane ambushes the meeting, and at the end of it, the English return with the chief's head and place it on a stake outside of the colony's fort.
Okay.
So there's that. Relations not great.
Kind of like a really aggressive version of a welcome mat.
I would say so. Yeah, no.
Not necessarily gonna incline people to help you.
No.
But again, that power thing, I guess.
But brains, not really there.
No.
No.
I would say not strategic.
No, not at all. Not one bit. So in June, the colonists make contact with a fleet of English ships coming back from Santo Domingo, and straight Uber vesseled themselves out of there. They were like, hey, you, come here. Let's go.
They were fucking Tom Hanks and Castaway. Like,
they really
screaming.
They were like, hi!
We have to go. Yeah. They were me they were me trying to leave a party when the clock strikes 11:01. Like, that's what they were. They were like,
they saw that ship coming.
We gotta go.
And they were like, take us with you. Take me with you, please.
Take me with you.
So they did, right? So all the remaining people left on this fucking boat back to London. Literally the next day, a supply ship comes in from England.
God damn it. And the boat captain is like, well, I knew there was supposed to be people here for me to deliver all these supplies to.
I thought that was so hilarious. Like, they needed all of these supplies, and then they were just like, let me hop on out. They leave literally the next fucking day. A ship comes like, hey, guys.
Shit. I mean, if these were people who lived in London, like, they were probably, like, ready to get the fuck
Honestly,
out. Supplies or no
that's another
supplies,
point that I'll
girl.
touch.
I need some pasties in here. Like, I'm hungry for a meat pie.
I'm sorry, did you bring one of Mrs. Lovett's meat pies? I don't think so. Anyway, so obviously nobody's there, so they're like, well, shit. And they leave. And where they go, who knows? And then 2 weeks later, the promised relief ship, the one that had been held up and redirected, came in.
Oh,
finally.
shit.
And
We
they
got
came
all the
in-
supplies now.
Yeah.
Damn.
And they came in with a year's worth of supplies and about 400 men, but obviously found nothing. And after interrogating a few of the natives, they find out what all went down and decide to return the fleet to England, but left behind like 15 men so that they could maintain an English presence.
Good.
Those men were immediately murdered by the natives.
I mean, can you imagine being one of those 15 men and you're just like,
No,
oh, God, what a terrible
it's kind of
fucking
a story.
idea.
So apparently they were unarmed.
Oh,
the
good.
The Englishmen were unarmed and were collecting oysters, and the natives kind of strolled up like, I just want to talk to you.
I just want to talk
I
to
just
you.
want to talk to you. No, they ambushed. Like, they came up and, like, had their weapons concealed and were like, hey, let's have a meeting.
Oh, my God.
And then immediately, like, murdered these men. A few of them did escape, the Englishmen, but they, like, went off into a boat and nobody ever heard from them ever again.
That's
like,
cool.
they just disappeared.
Okay.
Nobody
They
cares.
started a new life.
Pretty much. They said, we're done with this. So despite all of this, Raleigh is convinced by a couple people, including our watercolorist,
God damn it.
John White,
God damn
to-
it, John White.
try again.
Why would you betray me this way?
So, third
He's like,
time's
but the
charm.
trees, they were so beautiful.
The flora.
And the beaches,
fauna.
they had these reeds that grew up. And I could walk through the sound. The water only came up to my hips. It was beautiful. I shaved my legs while I was there.
I need to paint the fish.
The hair didn't grow back for 3 months. Jesus, God.
So, but this time they were like, you know what? Let's maybe settle like in a different area. Like, let's try the Chesapeake Bay area.
Got it. Okay.
So Raleigh approves
Same house,
this-
different room.
Pretty
Got it.
much.
They were like, maybe
Maybe
let's
if we
try
just
Virginia.
go up like 50 miles or down,
Yeah, it's
whatever.
fine.
It'll be fine.
It's good.
So
gonna
Raleigh
work out.
approves this charter, sends John White as the governor. Our watercolorist
became
is
the
now
governor?
a governor. Yes.
God damn it. Look at him. Look at him.
He's a governor now.
Look at him.
He's
I'm
the
proud of
governor
him.
now. Yeah.
Did he have a wife?
He did.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so,
Before he was the governor or after?
Before.
Okay. All right.
He had a
well,
wife.
Good on you, girl. Hanging in there.
Um,
Was her name like Margaret?
I don't know.
I
She
feel like
really
her name
have-
would
I
have
don't
been
think she had a
Margaret.
name. I
She
couldn't
just
find a
didn't
name.
have one.
So they sent John White as governor with 12 assistants and about 115 other people, including White's pregnant daughter and her husband. Our guy Manteo also came back again with them. They depart on May 8th and arrive in like the later half of July.
Man, I'm so surprised that Manteo is still hanging
He's
around.
still hanging in there. No, I'll continue talking about
I
him.
feel like he might be like afraid to admit that he's wrong.
All right. And that was a random phone call on my laptop, y'all. That was from Anteo.
We have to cut that out.
He was like, hey, you talking about me?
We have to cut that. I feel like he's afraid to admit that he's wrong, so he just keeps doing the thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that experience where like you do something that you like you're pursuing a path that you maybe at first believed in, and then it becomes clear to you over time that like you have made the wrong choice?
Yeah.
And then instead of admitting that you're wrong, you're just like, maybe if I just extra commit to it, then it will make it okay.
Yeah.
Kind of
much.
like this podcast. No, I'm
Pretty
kidding.
much. So they arrive again in the back half of July. They discover Lane's previous colony, which is just ruins at this point, and a few human remains. So White then tries to reestablish connections with the friendly Croatoans, which is the Manteo's people,
Got it.
who had kind of been friendly all along, but I guess had kind of fell out of touch when the other group left. Yada yada yada. So
Right.
he was like trying to make a good decision, like, hey, let's establish a friendly connection with these people, right? Your
Right.
people.
So naturally,
you
their
had the
first step
person
was
to
to
do
burn
it.
the fucking village.
No. First step was not to burn their village.
Good,
First
all right.
step was to murder their people. Anyway, no.
Really?
Yeah.
God
but-
damn it!
but-
These people don't know how to make friends.
But it
I'm
was an
worried
accident.
about
No,
them.
it was
They
an
needed
accident.
Mr. Rogers.
So it was actually an accident.
Was it a plague?
It wasn't. No. They murdered, but it was an accident. So let me tell you. So they accidentally attacked a group of Croatoans who were looting a deserted village. They thought that they were, I guess, an aggressive tribe in this village, but the village was actually empty, and there were just some Croatoans who were there, like, trying to find, like, supplies and shit and trying to loot it.
Yeah.
So Manteo comes in. So this group get attacked and they're murdered. Mm-hmm. And then they find out that those are the Croatoans
I mean, maybe
that they're
just
trying
like
to establish a friendly connection with.
maybe just
Not to
don't murder
mention-
people for a
not
while.
to
like
mention,
if you're trying to make friends.
one of those people was Manteo's mother.
Fuck.
Yes. So
Again, you have made the wrong choice. Just admit it and move forward.
So Manteo at this time was like, he was really like caught in a really difficult
He was really
position.
conflicted. Yeah.
And very conflicted because in his nature, he wanted to help and, didn't want to see these people or see anyone really, be hurt or
Right.
or starve to death or whatever. So
Yeah.
he's literally just trying his damnedest to make shit work. And it's kind of like both sides at this point are kind of like at fault, honestly, because you have some natives who are aggressive and don't like and for good reason, but they essentially don't want to, help these people or establish a connection or trade. Like they don't want to have nothing to do with it, right? And Manteo sees that as kind of ignorant in and of itself, and that you should kind of always be there to help people if you can. And so he tried his damnedest to smooth out the relations between his tribe and the English, but I don't think it was kind of like ever fully like it was never repaired after that point.
Yeah.
And a lot of his tribes sort of looked at him as a traitor, which was tough for him.
Right.
And then immediately after that, he was actually baptized. Again, like I said, that's when he was baptized into the Christian
After
church.
his mom was killed by a bunch of Christians?
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
And he was
To be
named...
fair, you said that both sides were kind of at fault, but I just think we should mention, probably goes without saying, well, only one of those sides got on a boat and crossed the fucking ocean.
No, that's true.
With very ill preparedness.
That's true, but I didn't get into a lot of the drama that was going on.
It was back and forth.
between.
Yeah, obviously
So it was back and forth, especially with the previous colony that was there.
Yeah.
It was so much drama. Like
There's
I
a
could
lot of
not cover
pettiness,
it.
it
There was
sounds
a lot
like.
of pettiness, and it happened on a lot of both sides. Like I said, from that chief, who was like trying to pull his people out of there, but he also did some shady shit where he like tricked other tribes into thinking that the English were going to attack them, then told the English that they were going to attack them, and then met them, and then you know what I mean?
He was sowing the seeds of discord.
Pretty much. So there was a lot of shit going down.
Yeah, I just always, when we're dealing with stories like this, I always like to mention that, like, Yeah,
no, I mean, obviously the main, the English are motherfuckers.
They weren't prepared.
And were not prepared. Anyway, Manteo is then baptized and is named Lord of Roanoke, which is a bullshit title. And really just sort of seen as like a political action from Sir Walter Raleigh. Or a political move, I guess I should say, because it held no weight. Because Manteo knew that just because he was dubbed Lord of Roanoke didn't mean that he was actually Lord of Roanoke, because the other people, the other natives, obviously were not going to follow him.
They were like, oh, yeah, good job.
He had not been chosen.
Yeah.
So he knew that it was just sort of fake at this point.
Yeah.
So on August 18th, 1587, John White's daughter gives birth to Virginia Dare, recorded as the first Christian born in Virginia. Quote, but here's a kind of funny moment. Records indicate that a Marjorie Harvey gave birth shortly thereafter, although nothing else is known about her child.
God damn it. Second place doesn't
Could you
count,
imagine?
Marjorie.
Could you imagine? Like, you have two pregnant women, and it's like they're both about to fucking
They're dueling.
pop.
It's like dueling births.
Which one? And then it's just like, well, fuck Marjorie. Right?
Damn.
So, because things really aren't looking too great, the colonists decide that they want to send White back to England to ask for help. He really didn't want to. He was reluctant, but departed with the fleet on August 27th. Now, White makes it back to England, but the Spanish Armada was posted up like, what's good, England?
Fuck.
So Queen Elizabeth prohibited any ships from leaving in order so that they could use them for battle.
Yeah.
And White wouldn't gain permission to return until 1590. It's 3 years later. White eventually comes back on August 18th, 1590, on his granddaughter's 3rd birthday. And they found nothing, nobody around. There were fresh tracks in the sand, and then they also discovered the words Crow carved into a tree, C-R-O, and the word Croatoan carved into a post. Now, White believed this to mean the colonists had peacefully relocated to Croatoan Island, because before he left, he said, should things get like fucking crazy, if you are forced to move, you put a fucking cross in the tree, or like leave a cross somewhere.
Got
and
it.
he never found that.
So he told him to leave. He told him specifically, if you need to go somewhere, leave a cross.
Leave a cross if it was by force, or like...
Oh, if it was by
if bad
force.
shit had happened.
Oh, okay,
yes.
okay. A cross means bad shit.
Cross means bad shit.
Got it.
Right, never found that. The search party found that houses had been dismantled and that anything that could be carried had been removed. Several large trunks that White had left behind had been dug up and looted, and none of the colony's boats were there. The party returned to their ship with plans to go to Croatoan Island the following day, but the anchor cable snapped, which forced them to abandon the mission, because that would cause that posed a risk of shipwreck. And a series of unfortunate events happened, which caused White to have to return again to England on October 24th, 1590. So he returns, reports that the colonists are fine. We're fine.
Did he really?
That's
fine.
He said they were fine.
Yeah, I saw the settlement.
Well, he said they were fine. They just relocated. Which I think some of that has to do with Raleigh's influence, because as long as he could prove they weren't dead, then he could maintain his claim on Virginia. So in 1595, Raleigh decides he's going to make his very first transatlantic voyage, which he had originally claimed to be in search for his lost colonists. But in reality, he was just searching for fucking El Dorado. Because on his way back, he took one look at the Outer Banks, didn't even stop, and just kept going.
Amazing.
He
Amazing.
blamed
He
it.
was like, bye, girl.
He really was like, bye. He blamed it on weather or some dumb shit. He was like, the weather was bad.
Oh, yeah, it was, yeah. I think it was
They're
foggy.
like, so you couldn't wait another day? No, it was bad that day, too.
Yeah, it was bad, too, then. It was just bad. I think it might always just rain there, maybe.
It's just always bad. Can't get over it.
Yeah.
So then, in 1603, Raleigh was implicated in a plot to overthrow King James and was arrested for treason, which effectively ended his Virginia charter. So
And
what
did
do
a
we
lot
know?
of things. For
Well, yeah. Well, but yeah. So what do we know? When White returned to the colony in 1590, there was no sign of battle, no sign of duress, no human remains or graves were reported, and the Croatoan message is consistent with an agreement White had made to indicate where to look for them. So now we kind of get into a little bit of the fun part. So this is the mystery.
the why we're talking about
why
this
we're
on this
talking
show.
about this.
We didn't just want to lecture you about the founding of North Carolina.
It's still a really interesting
It
story
is.
altogether.
It is. But here's the spooky tie-in, because they've been waiting on it about an hour.
Pretty much. But it all leads up to some, to some pretty cool shit. So I've got, so there are a few theories as to what happened. One, the colonists were absorbed into local populations or captured as slaves. So that's kind of the most popular theory. So is that they left Roanoke and that they sought shelter with other tribes. There were documented sightings of Europeans and their influence in the years following the disappearance of the settlers. And the theory goes that these Europeans could have been the missing settlers or their descendants. So there's that, which is like I said, is the biggest theory.
I love how they say there was evidence of Europeans and their influence. And their influence means mixed babies, y'all.
And their influence, yes. So there's that. And then number 2, you have the mysterious Croatoan. So the word Croatoan was found carved into a fence post at the abandoned colony. And its presence at the site is one of the most confusing mysteries of Roanoke. Why was it found there? The word Croatoan is also connected with other mysterious happenings over the centuries, each one more puzzling than the last. So, right before he died, Edgar Allan Poe actually disappeared for a short time. When he was seen again, he was delirious. In this final state of delirium before his death, allegedly one of the last words he said was Croatoan. Poe's official cause of death is unknown, and his medical records and death certificate are lost, so we don't really know what happened to him that night that he died. The word has also appeared at several other famous disappearances in the 19th and 20th centuries. In 1888, the stagecoach robber Black Bart carved the word into the wall of his cell before he was released from prison. He was never seen or heard from again. It was also found in Amelia Earhart's journal after she disappeared in 1937. The last bed that horror writer Ambrose Bierce slept in before he disappeared in Mexico in 1913 had the word Croatoan carved into one of the posts. And in 1921, Croatoan was written on the last page of the logbook of the ship Carroll A. Deering when it crashed on Cape Hatteras near Croatoan Island. The ship was missing its entire crew. So, a third theory, that they were murdered. In 1607, Captain John Smith, we all know him, tried to uncover what happened at Roanoke. He claimed that Chief Powhatan told him that he killed the people of the colony to retaliate against them for living with another tribe that refused to ally with him. Allegedly, Powhatan showed Smith items he took from Roanoke to support his story, including a musket barrel and a brass mortar and pestle. So that kind of that story kind of reached England and kind of spread around, like kind of like gossip. would be it was kind of a guy wrote it into the history of travel into Virginia, which was some book he was working on. So it kind of just made
Became
its way
lore.
around. It kind of became the lore
Yeah.
for a while.
Love it. So this is where we put the Disney Plus plug in, by the way, with
Yeah.
John Smith and Pocahontas, and even though that's not really how that story went
Pretty
a little bit
much.
differently.
Some people also claim that possibly the Spanish could have murdered them, but
Yeah.
that's been debunked because the Spanish didn't really know where the fuck they were at.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, did the Spanish like go that far like into the Outer Banks?
so they were
Like,
searching
was it-
for this colony. They had they knew that there was a colony or something, but they were still searching for it at the time that this disappearance
Okay.
happened. So they hadn't
Okay.
found anything. So
Okay.
it's very unlikely that that had anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Some folks say that they resorted to cannibalism, good old fashioned, let's eat each other up. So we always love that. And some people say that, oh, well, there were never any bodies found at the settlement, but, that doesn't mean anything. The bones could have been used for other things and taken. So,
Yeah.
so there's
It's
that.
possible, but I mean, far be it for me to, rain on the parade of cannibalism. But I think if there was a starvation sort of thing where they resorted to cannibalism, I think we would have evidence of that. We would have bones. We would have something.
Well,
you
they
know
were
what I mean?
saying initially, like, on both sides. So, like, either they, like, resorted to cannibalism themselves, or that other, like, a cannibalistic tribe came in, kind of murdered them and cannibalized them. But
Maybe.
there's no evidence that any native tribes in that area were cannibals. So
Got it.
it's
Yeah.
not really
I don't really. Yeah.
at all.
I mean, it's pretty metal, but like I just feel like it's probably not, unless they ate each other, and then there would be way more mess and like bones and.
Some say that it's possible that disease could have gotten them. Mm-hmm. There's also the theory that we all love of witchcraft. So there are a couple theories involving witchcraft. The Croatoan either executed the colonists as witches, or the colonists were the victims of witches who live in the North Carolina woods. The Croatoans believed in witches and witchcraft. Their definition of witches were people who used black magic to commit evil acts in everyday life. And while there is no evidence that the Croatoan executed witches or that the Croatoan accused the people of Roanoke of witchcraft, they were known for condemning dangerous outsiders. And they easily could have blamed the people of Roanoke for spreading diseases to which the Croatoan had no immunity.
Right.
And they and other Native American tribes tell legends of witches who live in the North Carolina woods who use black magic to hurt other people. There's a story that the people of Roanoke became the victims of these witches when they left the island, and that is why they were never heard from again. You also have theories that are sort of more supernatural or religious. So these kind of obviously have no scientific basis, but they are still taken very seriously by the native populations as explanations on what happened to the missing settlers of Roanoke. And they mainly revolve around Native American spirits that help explain why not only the behavior of the colonists before they disappeared, but also why the colonists disappeared without a trace. Here's where we get instances of the Wendigo. When people resort to eating human flesh, as in the case of cannibalism, their bodies are taken over, by a Wendigo. And if the people of Roanoke had resorted to cannibalism, then according to this belief, they are still alive, roaming the woods of North Carolina in the form of Wendigos.
Nasty little critters, those.
The Croatoan belief system also includes a spirit on the island that had the power to absorb humans into the landscape. If the spirit was offended or angered, it would turn people into trees, animals, stones, or any other part of the land. If the colonists were exploiting resources or abusing the land, it could have angered the spirit. This means that the people of Roanoke didn't disappear at all. They were just absorbed into the land.
That's cool. That's cool. That's interesting.
It's an interesting theory. Yes.
They weren't gone. They weren't disappeared. They literally were the land.
They became the land that they.
That's interesting.
had
And then
no
and then
idea.
fucking John White watercolor painted
That's
him.
his wife or
Shit.
his fucking daughter. And she's like, motherfucker. And he's just like,
Whoa.
"Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo."
That's cool.
Anyway, yeah, that's a really that's a really interesting theory. And then finally, we have the Dare stones. So from 1937 to 1940, a series of stones were discovered that supposedly tell the story of what happened to the Roanoke colonists. They are called the Dare stones because they were mostly, or apparently written by John White's daughter, Eleanor Dare. Most historians consider the Dare stones a hoax, although many historians believe the first stone is authentic. In 1937, a tourist found an inscribed stone and brought it to Emory University to be examined for authenticity. Dr. Haywood Pierce, a professor of American history, didn't claim that the stone was authentic, but it didn't contradict what was known at the time. The inscription was consistent with the phrasing of the time, and the colonists would have had the tools to carve into stone. The inscriptions on the stone stated that Eleanor's husband and daughter were dead. So Eleanor, her husband, and Virginia Dare, the little baby, were dead, and asked whoever found the stone to tell her father. The inscription read, Ananias Dare, which was the guy's husband, which was her husband, and Virginia went hence unto heaven, 1591. Anye Englishman shoe John White, Governor, via, whatever that fucking old English means. I can't. But anyway. The other side of the stone reported that only 7 of the Roanoke colonists were left alive, and Native Americans murdered the rest. And it was signed EWD, Eleanor White Dare. In 1940, 47 more stones had been found dating until 1599. A stone dated from 1592 claims that the survivors of Roanoke are safe, living with a tribe, but all of those, again, were found to be hoaxes.
Got it.
With the exception of that first stone that I mentioned. So yeah, that's kind of some of the theories surrounding that. It kind of ends on the Dare stones. There have been some instances in the news where a gold ring had been found that they thought were from one of the colonists, but some carbon dating turned out that it kind of wasn't. It wasn't actually really fucking gold.
It was just some motherfucker from North Carolina that lost his fucking wedding band.
Well, it was
He's
just
like,
a
"Shit."
generic ring that could have been from anybody at any point in time.
Right.
And it wasn't like, it didn't really mean anything. So that's kind of the theory of, or several of the theories of what happened at Croatoan Island. I actually thoroughly enjoyed researching this topic.
It's
And
interesting.
And then just to sort of clarify, John White went back after all of this. He obviously never found or knew what happened to his family. And he referred to it as his greatest failure. And that he really was truly kind of tortured by the thought that he would never see his family again.
Yeah.
And he lived out his life, I think, in Ireland with his sister. And then nothing really is ever heard of from Manteo again either. So he kind of disappeared with the Lost Colony.
Was he
at the
with
time.
them?
He was with them.
Okay, so he also just blinked out of existence.
Yeah, because he didn't go back with John for those supplies. He stayed.
Yeah.
He stayed, and he just kind of went into obscurity with the rest of the colonists. So very, very tragic on both of those accounts, especially for Manteo, who had just sort of like, honestly, for me, it can kind of be perceived as like, what a fucking waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah. And he lost his mom in the process. I mean, not that he did anything to cause that, but like in the process, like
well,
his mom is accidentally murdered and like all of this struggle for basically nothing.
right. And it's just so like frustrating to me because yes, they like had made several attempts to like try to find these people, but like it just feels like you didn't try hard enough.
Yeah.
Like you did not.
Like,
try
how
hard
about you
enough.
send
Now, I don't
another
know-
fucking ship if the anchor snapped?
Right. So I mean, like I said, there were several instances where he tried to get back. Even during the time before the Queen allowed him to come back, he was constantly trying to find ways and get approval to go over there. But literally every time he did, some fucking shit would go down. Like, at one point, the Queen was like, okay, you can have these boats and go, but because they're not like suitable for battle. And so he was like, okay, fine, I'm going. But then he just, like, the ships just really couldn't even fucking make it over there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on his part, it seemed like he was just really struck with fucking bad luck. And indeed, I think at one point he was quoted as saying something along the lines of like, I must have been born under the most fucking unluckiest star ever. Because it really just sort of seemed like, you know,
At every turn, it just went wrong.
horribly wrong. But I just don't think that there was enough action on people from like, you know, from Raleigh's point or whatever to like find these people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
it just kind of sucks. But it's still a very interesting story. Again, like I said, I learned a lot today. And I hope you did too.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me for History 101.
Well, no, it's interesting because the story does have like huge cultural significance to us. Like I remember learning about it in 4th grade history before we did our Jamestown field trip or whatever. And I remember like hearing that story and it was always kind of like creepy and open-ended. Like they left all these people and they were just never seen again or heard again. And we never found any remains and we never, you know, but
And
it's interesting to kind of like know the history behind it and hear the history behind it because it's extrapolated in things like Supernatural had an episode involving
Right. It's
Croatoan
very
and it
much
was
in
this
pop
like
culture.
horrible virus and stuff and then you know American Horror Story of course incorporated it into their season a couple seasons back actually. I think it's like 3 seasons back now. Was Roanoke Island?
5th? Yeah, it was like maybe 2 seasons back. I can't remember, but they did.
But nobody ever like incorporates the history behind it. It's always extrapolated in some because the word Croatoan sounds weird, so it's just like, oh, that must be like some horrible. Like in the case of Supernatural, it's a virus that turns you into a demon. Like, okay, but it was the name of an Indian tribe or a Native American tribe that was there at the time.
That
So
just
like
actually
in
existed,
context,
yeah.
it's a whole lot less like. Not to say less intimidating, because it still is weird that it was carved into the tree, and like, why was it there, and
Well, my
what
thing
happened?
is that why was like you had Croatoan on one, but then only like half
Crow.
of that
Yeah.
on another. Like someone stopped.
Yeah.
Like
So like,
Like,
were
they
they
stopped
interrupted?
mid, were
Like,
they-
what was the deal?
why were there fresh tracks? when
Yeah,
we
the
first
fresh
got there?
tracks, that has always been the detail ever since I was a kid and I first heard the story. The fresh tracks detail has always been the one that
Which
gets
would
me.
mean that they couldn't have been that like if they had just left.
It
Which,
makes you think
let's be
that.
real. That's a high possibility that they were like, all right, let's go to this other place, and then literally the next fucking day,
Yeah.
he comes back.
I mean, like earlier in the
Like,
story
yeah.
with the fucking supply ship that showed up the next
I
day.
mean,
It's not like
damn,
it.
this is why we have cell phones nowadays.
Yeah.
It's like shoot me a text
Yeah.
or something if you on your way. You
That's
couldn't
very
do that back
interesting.
then.
I want to do at some point I want to do a full episode on some of I have this like huge anthology of Cherokee myths and legends.
Yeah.
And that's just one tribe. There's a ton of really, really, really interesting Native American mythologies and legends. Like, I had never heard the story of the spirit who turns people into elements of nature.
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool to
Yeah.
me. So I think it would be cool to kind of dig into some of those
Like-
different mythologies, because it really is
What if
very interesting.
it's almost like, what if he was like the person carving Crow?
Yeah.
Like, what if what if he turned into the tree or something? You know what I mean? Like, what if he got like and became the tree? That's why it's interesting to think about things like that. And it was just a theory that like I had never really heard of.
Right.
Like, that was when I was like, oh shit, like this is new to me. But yeah, so that was my episode, y'all.
Yeah. Lots to think about there. Well, if you happen to solve the mystery of the Roanoke colony settlers,
Or if you have a theory yourself,
you can email us at thehauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from listeners. If you have story suggestions, if you have case suggestions, just shoot us an email. Let us know. We would love to look into it for you. Also, check out the Patreon. I know we mentioned it at the top of the episode, but it's patreon.com/thehauntedheart. Check us out there. We have all kinds of bonus extra content, including a full-length review of Dr. Sleep, which was super cool. We were both big fans. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
I'm drunk.
Drunk on knowledge.
You can follow us on social media on Instagram, The Haunted Heart Podcast, on Twitter, The Haunted Heart, and on Facebook. If you search The Haunted Heart Podcast, you can like our Facebook page and also join our closed Facebook group. Don't worry, it's private, so your Aunt Nancy will not see all of the horrible, horrible things you like to talk about online with folks. But there's lots of good spooky horror memes in there. There's lots of good true crime content in there. And it's just a cool-ass community to be part of.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we get in our feels. It's good. It's a good time.
It is.
Yeah.
We love it.
It's a good spooky support group.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Good way to think of it. And I think that's it for now, loves.
I believe it is.
You know what you have to do. Until next time, you just need to
Carve
lay low.
Croatoan in the tree if you're leaving.
You just need to lay low. Don't set anybody's village on fire and stay spooky. Or, just crow for short.